Welcome back, everybody. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show right here on SABC3. We're about to get into a very somber conversation right now, but so vitally important. Teen Suicide Prevention Week, which took place from the 14th to the 21st of February, highlighted awareness around teen depression and suicide. Raising awareness about teen suicide prevention comes at an important time as we continue to fight a pandemic and the matric final results being released today. Now, according to the World Health Organization, suicide remains the third leading cause of death in 15 to 19-year-olds. And of course, clinical psychologist Daniel Goldstone joins us in studio to share his knowledge on suicide prevention. Daniel, so good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I was saying it's strange to look forward to a discussion like this, but because it's so vitally important, and I think the reality, I think as soon as I had kids, that my whole perception of what it is for a young person to make their way through life changed dramatically. Every element, every statistic that we reveal is heartbreaking in itself. The fact that, you know, what you read in that intro, the fact that it's the third highest cause of death in that age group, that in itself is so alarming. Are the rates higher now? Have we seen a shift? Obviously, we've experienced probably one of the most difficult years in recent memory for young people, especially considering matric and exams and pressures and learning and all of those spaces. Where do we sit? Where are the figures right now? Better or worse than in the past?
So we don't have kind of live figures, but from my knowledge, we haven't seen any major increase. I think there's been a massive increase in the rates of sort of anxiety and depression amongst the youth and the general population, given the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdowns that everybody's been going through and experiencing. So people have been experiencing greater rates of suicidal ideation, which are just thoughts about suicide.
Yeah.
We haven't seen an increase in the rates.
Yeah, like G, myself, I was also very maybe excited to speak about it because just maybe we can help someone with
Just
having this
one
conversation
person,
like this. When it comes to stresses involved in teen suicide, what are they? What are we seeing that is leading teenagers to this point?
I think, mental illness is associated with suicide. Obviously, that one we've got to look out for. And I think it's interesting that you guys have said that you're excited to talk about this, which is a good thing because we don't talk about suicide. And it's exactly talking about it that is the thing that we can do to help prevent it. So teens go through all kinds of stresses. Everyone at the moment, the matric results have just come out yesterday. The matrics are all looking forward to hopefully receiving their results. But it can be a major stress point in their lives.
So much pressure put on them at that point, yeah.
Absolutely, and that can come from sort of a narrowing of focus to think that this is the only thing that matters when there are more things that matter. And if the results don't go well, there are other things that people can do to make up for that. But also things like relationship stresses, both in one's family or in romantic relationships or in friendships, being socially excluded. Bullying is a major cause of mental illness in our teenage group. So those are some of the things that might lead someone to feel suicidal.
That being said, we know the contributing factors, and maybe that's a warning sign in itself. Can you predict suicidal intention? Can you see it, or is it, the danger that it is too hidden? What are the signs?
So there are definite warning signs that someone might be going through a difficult time and might be experiencing some suicidal thoughts. Things like changes in appetite or in sleep, either more sleep or less sleep, withdrawing from family and friends, feeling more sad and down most of the time. And this is like an unusual shift from what that person's baseline is. So if a person is normally an introvert, we were speaking about this, if they're a bit of an introvert, then that is normal for them, right? But if there's a sudden change in their behavior, that's the thing to look out for. If they're crying all the time, if they're talking about suicide, if they're talking about being dead, if they're saying they don't want to be around, posting on online forums potentially, those are all the big warning signs to look out for.
We spoke about it. We find it more often between an age from 15 to 19 years old. But at what point do we reach out, if it's a friend, if it's a colleague? Because at that age, you're very much wanting to be in your space. You don't maybe want to open up to anyone about being or feeling this way. At what point do we as colleagues, as friends, as South Africa reach out to someone if we do see these warning signs?
I think that's a really important question because I think as soon as you're worried, you reach out. There's no harm in asking someone, hey, how's it going? I noticed that you haven't come to the last couple of social things we've been doing. I noticed that you're feeling a little bit down recently. Is everything all right? What's going on? One of the big things with suicide is that we don't talk about it, and it is talking about it that helps prevent it. So when someone is feeling suicidal, they're already feeling vulnerable, they're already feeling isolated and alone, they're already feeling perhaps even ashamed that they're having these thoughts, because there's big stigma and people think that you're weak if you're feeling suicidal, if you've got mental illness. So they are probably not going to reach out from their own. So if you're worried about someone who's feeling suicidal, ask them, hey, are you doing all right? I've noticed things are different. Can I help in some way? Ask them directly about suicide. Have you had any thoughts about killing yourself? Have you had thoughts about suicide?
Act on it. If you feel the impulse, act on it.
Absolutely.
And perhaps, and it's amazing, and often my discussions with experts such as yourself, talking to someone who's neutral, maybe not connected within your family, is the best way to go about it, because they are a step back. And I think the South African Depression and Anxiety Group is an unbelievable resource. We have worked with them on so many campaigns. They really are amazing at what they do, and they could be the voice that you are needing to hear. So we're going to keep their details on our social media platforms on screen, but you can give them a call on 0800 567 567. That is a number that is so vitally important to broadcast during this time of teen suicide prevention. We're going to continue this discussion. I want to focus on matric results and what parents can do if those results have been disappointing before it escalates.